Anybody that gets excited for the return of football vis-a-vis the Hall of Fame game tomorrow?
Training camp, I'm excited for. Hall of Fame game, not really. I'm not really a preseason guy, and this is like the most useless of all the preseason games, so not that exciting.
Okay. So best to pace ourselves, right?
Good for you not taking the bait, because I said earlier, and I've said this for years, like the Hall of Fame game and then the Bills' first preseason game are very much the same to me. Sit down, all right, football, and like 8 minutes later, just what am I doing with my life? Like why am I here? It's nice out. There's a sunset. What am I doing? Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's exciting to have training camps back. It's exciting to just get reports from training camp. I mean, you don't want to hear silly things like training camp stats, but just to know that teams are practicing, talking about depth charts, it's good.
Aaron, it used to be different with training camp because of social media and all the mass amount of coverage. It used to be that, like, maybe you'd get word of an injury, but it was not as sudden. The swings weren't as wild. Like, I do a fantasy podcast called ADP Chasing, and yesterday in the course of it, there were like 5 injuries, and 3 or 4 of them, the player's back. Luther Burden wasn't an injury, but I mean Worthy and Neighbors and these different guys. Which was a better existence, back when we were just kind of in the dark for a while, or now where it can be just like a lot?
This is fun now, but you have to remember that in training camp, it's much easier to bring the card out than it is during a game. So the card comes out for everything. So if you hear that the card came out for a player, it doesn't mean it was a major injury because it's training camp.
Right on.
And there are carts parked all over the place at these complexes.
So many carts.
Right. You find something to do with the carts. Let's get some use out of the carts. Go get that guy.
Justin Fields won the honors of being first carted off. He's already back.
Right.
So, I mean, that wasn't even the same practice, but still, like, you can get a little
Someone stepped on his
paranoid.
Ankle. Right, stepped on his ankle. Whatever. Aaron's FTN Football Almanac for 2025 is out. I saw from a tweet of yours just a few little nuggets that you put in a tweet earlier today. One, the Bills play less base defense than any other team. When I wrote that in my notes, I left out the word base. I just wrote the Bills play less defense than any other team. That's not quite it. How interesting is this? Yeah, some of it is, game status because they're winning and the other team is passing, so they play nickel. But McDermott's been this way since he was in Carolina. He just doesn't play base. He plays nickel all the time. And it's interesting because it changes how you look at the personnel, right? The nickel cornerback becomes even more important, and the third linebacker becomes not less important. Basically just as depth.
Right.
So it does change the way you look at the roster. Yeah,
I wonder if that is. We've been pondering here, Aaron, whether that is going to change at all. Whether McDermott, because it has felt for many years now, and I'll bet we've talked about this, the three of us in the past, that he's among the defensive coaches who are inviting you to run. Go ahead and run. You want to run? Run. I'm gonna line up, so I'm begging you to run because I'd rather you do that than what I want to do is take away your pass game and especially your explosive passing game. But the way the Bills have handled this offseason, it feels a little bit like they're trying to shore up that run defense. And I wonder if, say, a Dorian Williams, who is basically that linebacker you just described, who's like he's the next guy, but he is not on the field as a third linebacker very often, if at all. I wonder if they might start mixing that in a little bit. I think that might be something to keep an eye on this year.
Maybe. I still feel like McDermott has done this for so long that it's almost like he'd be more. I more would expect 3 safeties to be the switch than the 3 linebackers to be the switch.
It's worked for him. I mean, they have been consistently good. There are a lot of changes on that defense this year, and as far as nickel corner, Taron Johnson affords him, this luxury, if you will, having been as excellent as he has. What are your particular projections for the Bills this year defensively? It will look a little different, personnel-wise.
We like the defense. We have them projected in our top 10. There's no way they're going to have as many turnovers as they did last year, right? Turnovers regress to the mean very heavily. The Bills' defense was very dependent on turnovers last year. But we still think it's a good defense. We think
the luck will not be quite there, but the talent is a little bit improved, and so that evens it out a little bit. And I don't think this is going to be a bad defense. I think it should be a good one.
32 takeaways last year, regular season, third in the league, to 8 turnovers, first in the league. So this one works in both directions, maybe.
Yeah, given Allen's history, you would expect a couple of more interceptions, but I think fewer turnovers for the defense is much more likely than more turnovers for the offense.
Aaron Schatz with us. The Almanac is out. FTN Football Almanac from Aaron for 2025. We've talked to each other. We've known each other for many years. Long enough so that when we would have, even weekly for a while there during the season with you, Aaron, we would often hear you say, man, for the fans up there, I just hope someday they get good. It goes back far enough where you'd been on for enough years during the Bills playoff drought. I'd like to see it happen someday. And now, look at it.
Are they annoying yet?
It's been 8 years of McDermott, and they've been in the playoffs 7 times. The betting markets like the Bills as much as anybody this year. Do you concur?
Yes, we like the Bills. They have our highest win projection. We do end up with the Ravens slightly ahead of them in the DVOA projections, the ratings. And we do have the Ravens with a slightly higher Super Bowl chance based on that. But the Bills are more likely to have the home field advantage. That Week 1 game is super duper important, obviously, for home field advantage. But we're in this weird place. We're in this weird place where the 4 best quarterbacks in the league are all in the same conference, and only one of them can go to the Super Bowl every year. And it just so happens, I ran this table in the book. The best team over 5 years in the regular season since 1978 to not make a Super Bowl is the last 5 years of the Bills. And the second best team is the last 5 years of the Ravens.
How about that? I don't know if you...
It's a compliment, but it's also... right? Should we take that as, well, that's great, but in all caps?
My feeling has always been that players and teams that, quote-unquote, can't get it done in the playoffs only can't get it done until the year that they do get it done. There are plenty, Peyton Manning being a good example. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of guys who they have the year where it all comes together. A really good example from football is the LA Rams. The LA Rams were something like 66-19 from 1973 to 1978. Never made the Super Bowl. And then they finally made it in 1979. Yeah. The problem that the AFC has is, let's say somebody gets past Mahomes, it still has to be either Jackson or Allen or someone else. It certainly can't be both of them because only one can do it.
We've had this conversation about the Manning Colts. I can hear you saying it it wasn't their best team that won. And the Rams, what a great example of that they are. In 79, they were 9-7. Malavasi, that team wasn't as good. Maybe they were better than their record, but the teams that you cited before that under Knox mostly were they had great records.
Yes, it's absolutely true. The team that makes it in the playoffs and finally wins it all is not necessarily the best team that you have. Certainly, I don't know about the Bills because I think this year they look about as good as last year, but the Ravens have been so good the last 2 years in the regular season that it's almost impossible to imagine they'll be that good in the regular season again. So if they happen to be the team that gets past the Chiefs and makes it, it will absolutely not be their best year.
Well, of course, I want to say, accept that these points, that I look at it the same way, that there's nothing that says the Bills can't do it. Do you know the losses in the playoffs well enough to be able to sort of put drop a line or two on why it hasn't turned out differently? Of course, beyond the obvious about how great Mahomes and Kansas City have been also. But the one thing that I always go to is, Aaron, in the 4 now playoff losses to Kansas City, they've been totally unable to stop Mahomes. They've no interceptions. They've just had, for a team last year, the Chiefs, that had a really rough season offensively, they had an easy time in that game. That's where I would turn.
Yeah, I will fully admit to being terrible at remembering details of games unless I prep ahead of time. But I think you're right. I mean, this is the big difference between the Bills and the Ravens, is that with the Ravens, you can have this discussion of Lamar Jackson, why does he not live up to his regular season performance in the playoffs? You can't have that discussion with Josh Allen. It's much more about the defense and whether they can stop Mahomes. It's not like Allen has had a bunch of bad games in the playoffs.
Right, but that said, here I will get some details for you because, and I don't know where this will end us up here, but this has been the talk for really 2 off seasons. Is that McDermott, and it all traces back to 13 seconds, not surprisingly, Aaron, like that. He's wearing that like a scarlet letter. We said it on the post-game show immediately after that game. Until they win the Super Bowl, this is going to be a moment we are talking about for years, and well, here we are. We're still talking about it, but I think in part because of that, that's to say it makes any complaining or criticizing his defense unfair, but the last 2 times they've lost to the Chiefs, they've had the ball with a chance to score a touchdown and take the lead around the 2-minute warning and haven't come through.
Yeah.
And in both of those situations, I would say I would take that. Like going into the game, I've got Allen with the ball around midfield or even in your territory around the 2-minute warning, needing a touchdown to beat you. I would sign for that before the game begins. And they have not come through. So, yes, the offense has, and Allen has performed fantastically, but in the end, I'm not sure that blaming the defense for all of the failure is entirely fair either.
The other thing I hear from Bills fans a lot is complaints about McDermott not being aggressive enough, which is strange to me because in the regular season, at least, he's one of the more aggressive coaches in the league on 4th down. So I think he just needs to make sure that that he doesn't lose his spine in the playoffs, that he keeps with the aggression that he shows during the regular season.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it might be more his image than anything else. You know, he comes off as conservative, and maybe he started as conservative and established that. But I'm always watching that closely, and I agree. It's not so much fair to label him that way. With Aaron Schatz, so I mean this all as a question. I'm thinking about it feels like, okay, in the NFL, we've moved toward the running game. It's sort of bounced back the other way like it does in this sport many times over the years. To what extent is that sort of an overstatement, maybe, what we saw last year in terms of these trends? And do you think whatever it was will continue?
Yeah, it was a little bit, and it was 1 year. I wouldn't overstate the power of the 1 year quite yet. The passing game is still far more important than the running game, and pass defense is still far more important than run defense, and we're still not playing in the 1970s. You definitely saw last year, what you saw is the value of a good running back with a good offensive line. Okay, when a good running back is not playing with a good offensive line, they have a lot less value, that it's sort of a force multiplier. We'll have to see what happens. The offensive line with the Raiders is okay, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with Aston Janthe this year, right? Because he's considered a running back of that level, and he's considered that he breaks so many tackles that he sort of surpasses the problems of his line. But we'll have to see.
Right. You mentioned Janthe. What do you think of the Raiders? And if not the Raiders, who are a couple of interesting dark horses to you?
I kind of like the Raiders to be better than people are expecting, but I think that they are a team with a very small range of possibilities, right? When you have a young quarterback, you have a very wide range of possibilities because your quarterback could be much better than expected or could be much worse. When you are a veteran team with a veteran coach and a veteran quarterback that's going to depend on the run game rather than the passing game, it just feels like the Raiders are they're going to win 6 to 9 games. Mm-hmm. It's just they're not going 3-14, and they're also not going to go 11-6. They're just kind of mediocre. So that's what I think of the Raiders. That's still better than conventional wisdom.
Yeah, no, that's logical. That's logical. I could see the Raiders, maybe it's a little bit above your range, but with Seattle, Geno Smith, what a cool story. This guy, he's actually good. Look at these clips and look at the accuracy. They get to the playoffs and, no. Can you see the Raiders getting the 7? Maybe. Can you see them winning here in that game?
No.
That's tougher.
Right.
Yeah, well, y'all don't do the weird stuff Baltimore does. Baltimore loses 1 or 2 of those every year. Buffalo doesn't.
Yeah.
Those weird losses.
Is there a team in the? It's really the Chargers or the Broncos are the only two that are left. Are either of those teams ready to challenge Kansas City, or do you think Kansas City is just sort of steady as she goes or spectacular as she goes? Maybe even ready to bounce back offensively after a couple of years where they have not been as potent as they had been prior.
Yeah, I think Kansas City is mostly steady, but they're not going to have the luck this year that they had last year. Like, they might be better, but not as lucky, and therefore they're not going to go 15-2. Our numbers like Denver much more than the Chargers. We have Denver as like our number 1 or 2 projected defense, and we have the Chargers defense coming back to the pack.
That's interesting. New England, Aaron, so all my fantasy stuff, people are now sort of saying the same thing. This happens. You can't find anybody who's not in on Drake May in fantasy. Like, there's a rushing upside element specific to fantasy that people like him as a draft pick, but it just seems that sort of the world has decided that he's it. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, he's really good. Like, the problem is, how much have they improved things around him? Right, because you don't want him to get bad habits because of problems around him. So they really hope that they've really improved things around him with all the offensive line changes, and Stephon Diggs and the rookie Kyle Williams. But I do think that he's really good. I think our projections are a little lower on the Patriots than the conventional wisdom. So I think people might be overstating just how good a coach Vrabel is, because we don't really know that he's that good a coach because we only have one team of sample for him, which was the Titans. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, our projection system may be underselling just how bad a coach Mayo was. So it may be that Vrabel's not as good as people think he is, but Mayo was so bad that the difference between them is huge.
How big an upgrade do you think the Bears coaching move is likely to be? Ben Johnson has a lot of fans, but this is his first crack at head coach.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. We know that he is a smart, creative offensive play caller, but there is a lot that goes into being a head coach that you just don't know if a guy can do it until he does it. And there are plenty of quality coordinators who failed as head coaches. I do like his ability to be good with the Bears, but I think there are some serious questions about their defense other than Jalen Johnson, and I also think that they have a very hard schedule this year.
In turn, Detroit, how big a blow? They lost Aaron Glenn, too, the Lions. How do you think that'll look?
Our numbers still love Detroit, even giving them penalties for having the new coordinators. It still thinks, they were so injured on defense last year that if they have normal health on defense, given the way they played on defense last year, they should be a top defense. Now, the thing to remember is their offense was one of the healthiest in the league last year. And so you have to start asking yourself, who can they lose to injury? They already lost Ragnow to retirement.
Yep.
If they lose guys to injury, are they going to have problems? But if you expect an average number of injuries, we think Detroit's going to pull through and be one of the top teams in the league.
I'm thinking that a system of projections would almost definitely have Philadelphia as the top team in the NFC East. It's just a quirk in that 20 years have gone by and no team in that division has repeated as champs. How live are their contenders there? Washington, NFC Championship. A lot of people seem to like Dallas.
Surprise! This is my most surprising projection. We actually have Washington ahead of Philadelphia.
Okay. You're Aaron Schatz.
Right.
Let's go.
This is your brand.
Defense is less consistent than offense. And Philadelphia was only 13th on offense last year by my ratings. They were number 1 in defense by a lot. It's very unlikely they're going to be number 1 on defense again, especially given the amount of talent that they lost in the offseason. We believe in the young players that are going to replace those guys like Moro Ajomo and Jalen Hunt, but we haven't really seen them yet. So you can't expect that they're going to be that good. And if their defense is like 3rd or 4th in the league, and they have the second hardest projected schedule compared to Washington at 12, Washington can pass them.
That's the Eagles playing here and the Commanders playing Miami. And that's on a neutral site, too. That's in Europe.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big difference.
Speaking of Miami, real quick on them. I know we've kind of hopped around here, but we mentioned New England. I don't think we need to really get into the Jets. The Dolphins have been the team that was the closest, right? We're in agreement there. In the rearview mirror, the Dolphins have been the team that was closest to the Bills. And I sort of feel like New England has maybe replaced them, and I feel like Miami's going the wrong way. What do your numbers say?
It's because part of it is, I talked about that wide range of possibilities, that the Raiders have a very slim range. The Patriots have a very wide range of possibilities. Miami feels very stagnant. The chapter in the Almanac talks about the question of whether people have figured out McDaniels' offense, and also his inability to do anything whenever he has a backup quarterback, which is a little bit of a problem when you have a quarterback who keeps having concussion issues. And their defense, oh my God, are there no cornerbacks? Yeah. Like, there are no cornerbacks, and then they just lost, like, their best cornerback, Tater Kohu, who's not really that good, but still was, like, the best guy they had, and they lost him for the year. So, like, they have pass rushers, but there's no secondary.
Maybe they should trade for Jalen Ramsey. Is it too late?
Yeah, it's a little too late for that guy. Like, I don't really understand the whole Ramsey thing, honestly.
Make the same offer back, you don't get him. You have to make it better to have any chance. You'd have to improve on that. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Aaron, so I see from your Twitter, ftnfantasy.com/almanac. Is that the best and easiest way to pick it up?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the PDF. That's where you get the PDF file. If you do want the printed book, it costs a little bit more. You can search on Amazon for FTN Football Almanac 2025. But we like to sell those PDFs. They're real good for us. So ftnfantasy.com/almanac is where you pick it up.
Aaron, thank you. I know you were on the show that precedes ours, One Bills Live, as well today. I think you're probably all primed. If you wanted to go out tonight, just talk Bills with anybody. I mean, you've two radio hits in one day. You've got to be completely up to speed here.
And I mean, the thing, look, it's happy to talk about the team with my top win projection, right? Because, like, that, I'm saying good things, right? You're more unhappy if you call me from, like, Minnesota or something.
Ooh, I want to read this. I want to read the Minnesota section now. Right.